Doc Rivers is the solution to Milwaukee's problems.
No. I think he'll change things in a good way. He's not Adrian Griffin, who clearly had lost the locker room, who clearly had lost Giannis, but they just don't have enough defense. There are not enough pieces there to be great defensively. And you can change your system to better utilize Brook Lopez and Giannis. You can change your system so that everything is funneled to those guys. But at the end of the day, in the playoffs, you're going to have to guard Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and Derek White. And you're going to be doing it with Malik Beasley, Damian Lillard, and God knows who else. So I'm not sold that this will fix all of their problems. I think their problems went way beyond the head coach. The vision there is becoming like otherworldly offensively and competent defensively, but I just don't see them finding that solution. Like they just don't have enough wing defenders. I'm not there yet with them, and I don't think I'll get there.
Josh, buy or sell?
The hard part for me to figure out is like what creates a solution to the problems, right? Where are they sitting at record wise right now? They had lost 13 games when Doc took over, and now they're sitting at 32-14. Right. You look at that objectively, like with no knowledge of how whatever the problems are, you go, this is a good team. They're sitting
really good. They got Giannis
in the East right now. They're sitting second in the East right now. They've only lost 14. Like, so where's the problem?
Right.
To me, it was this locker room thing, right? You hear rumors coming out about Giannis changing plays. You know what I mean? Giannis losing trust in Adrian Griffin. Like, I think Doc could be somewhat of a solution because of the fact that like he's Doc Rivers. He has coached championship teams. He has the proven resume, and he's a defensive minded coach. I think he's going to earn that respect from these guys that Griffin didn't have. Because it's weird, right? It's like, why do we feel like this team is struggling when they're second in the East?
But also, all right. So this is interesting from your perspective, Josh, because you are a player in the NBA. You've experienced all this stuff. All of us on the outside here do not believe in Doc Rivers, right? Like Doc Rivers for his resume, and I'm including that. I'm not absolved. I'm not pretending I'm not part of that. Like I make as many Doc Rivers jokes about as anybody. Like he is not accepted as this guy who can help you win a championship anymore.
But why? I mean, listen, he had some great teams that did not perform when they should have.
Because they blow 3-1 leads, they blow 3-2 leads. They don't advance. Once the KG Paul Pierce era was cut, or was done, like he hasn't come close to competing for a championship since.
I think when you look at his time in Philly, that was, I feel like, a more of a personnel issue in terms of Embiid wasn't Embiid yet. He had James Harden, right? Ben Simmons. Like he was dealing with other potential issues of maturity, competitiveness, whatever you want to call it, things like that. I think you don't have to worry about that with this Bucks roster the same way. I don't know. I think Doc will command a little bit more respect and get these guys to hop on board a little bit better than they did with Adrian Griffin. Because as a player, and even you don't even need a player to be a player to understand that, like, if your players, especially if your star player just does not respect the coach, that seeps into everything. It seeps into the locker room. It becomes toxic, and people just don't buy in.
My issue with the hiring is not even with the hiring itself, because at this stage of the season, they needed to go out and hire somebody with a pedigree. They could not have hired just another first-time head coach who was learning on the fly, who had to come in and fix things. I don't think that would have worked. So Doc Rivers, there weren't really a lot of other choices given that criteria.
Right.
My issue is, like, you look back at Mike Budenholzer, and he was an amazing regular season coach who won a championship, much like Doc Rivers did, and had other circumstances where he probably didn't adjust enough, where he wasn't up to the challenge against a great head coach like Eric Spoelstra. Like, and that was his problem. That's Doc Rivers' problem too. So you had a guy in Mike Budenholzer who might be a better coach, and then you end up with Doc Rivers. So it's just like the steps that they've taken as an organization have just led them to what I consider a downgrade. And I get why they needed to move on from Budenholzer, but to me, like, you've downgraded from your head coach, and you've done it, and now Doc has to come in mid-season and fix a locker room that is reeling from a weird Adrian Griffin experience where they won a ton of
Are they
games.
reeling? They looked pretty happy.
Well, they're happy now. Yeah. But there are just like there are issues from that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get that.
Just, yeah.
It'll be interesting. It's hard to predict. If Giannis jumps on board, I think that goes a long ways.
But I agree. But even to Jay's point, like, can they fix this deal? Like, all right, we're going to drop coverage 100% of the time. Well, okay, great. You're still getting torched.
And Budenholzer was the best at that, by the way. Budenholzer was amazing at creating a structured defensively.
But for the regular season, sure. In the playoffs, like, it didn't hold up time and time again. Like, it held up one time. And granted, it held up for a championship. So congrats. But like, we kept talking about the same thing of like, wow, they don't adjust. Wow, they just get shredded from three. Wow, like any team shooting decently is going to give them trouble. And so I even think, like, everyone latched on to the Giannis rant in the part where he was talking about, we need a plan, we need a system, we need a plan, we need a system, right? Like, once Griffin got fired, the thing that kept ringing in my head is him saying, we can't die on screens, in the exact same rant. He's like, we die on screens all the time, myself included, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, to me, that's talking about Dame, right? Like, because like Dame doesn't navigate screens well. Like, he just doesn't. I don't think it's a lack of effort. I think he just doesn't have that for whatever reason at this point. And like, Malik Beasley is a little bit better at it, but not great. Like, they don't have the personnel to compete on the perimeter. Like, Chris Middleton doesn't move like he used to. And so unless you can fix some of that, and maybe you can schematically, I'm willing to be completely in the dark on that. I don't know what Doc's going to try to do, but also, Josh, like, how much can you implement throughout a regular season? Like, halfway through the regular season, they don't practice, and Doc's teams already don't practice. Like, there's just only so much you can do.
Yeah, be interesting. I have no idea.
Josh thinks he sucks. That's
what we have all these questions, and they are 32-14.
Oh, that's the thing. They're good. They're so good. They're so good.
They've survived all of this stuff, and maybe it is a coaching change. Like, clearly, they needed a change. They made it so quickly, abruptly. They knew things were very wrong. I'm just not sure it's going to push them over the top.